welcome to News Across the Galaxy. I am your host, Eddie. Today we have a very special show for you. When the Los Angeles Galaxy was first assembled in 1996, no one had any idea how good the team was going to be. Brought on a team with such legends as Mauricio Cienfuegos, Robin Fraser, El Tanque Hurtado, Kobe Jones, Jorge Campos, and a young Greg Vanny, who earned the honor of wearing the captain's band, the one, the only. Today we welcome him a true original and one of the most respected players during the playing days. Ooh, getting too excited here. The playing days in Major League Soccer. He wore the Galaxy jersey with pride, appearing in 77 matches between 1996 and 1998. He is the very first Galaxy captain and newly appointed assistant coach. Everybody, put your hands together for Mr. Dan Calichman, aka Captain Dan.
Nice.
Hi, everybody.
Captain Dan.
Nice to see everyone.
Welcome home, Captain Dan. We're excited to have you here. I know you're excited to be here. I can see the sun coming through those windows. Probably something you're not too used to anymore.
The weather is so much better here than Toronto.
I also hear that up in Canada, you can't see the moon. So when people head down south into the U.S., they freak out when the moon comes out. Is that true?
I don't think that's true.
Well,
Where are you guys getting this stuff from?
Well, at least he doesn't have to worry about werewolves in Toronto, right?
That's true.
Definitely don't.
Well, Captain Dan, it's good to have you back home. I always tell the guys wonderful stories about your time with the Galaxy, and I was very lucky to have a press pass back then and get to interview you and many of the wonderful figures from those original squads. So it's good to have you back home. Galaxy's been through a very tough time, and it seems that the team is going through a renaissance right now with Greg Vanny and now you and Gato Hartman. But let's rewind it. Let's get on the tape deck and rewind it all the way back to like the early 90s.
The 8-track, you got to get on the 8-track.
And before we get to this point where we are now, we want to know what struggles did you have to go through to play the beautiful game before Major League Soccer started up in 1996?
What struggles? So I grew up on the Northeast. I don't know if people know that, but I grew up on the Northeast, went to school, wasn't sure what I was going to do after that. And fortunately, I had a connection. I had an older brother that was living in Japan at the time. He bumped into a coach, and sure enough, their friendship, I ended up going to Japan and playing in the Japanese Professional League for 2 years before it became the J League. So I was there as kind of the J League blossomed. And, so I was very, very fortunate that at least I could play professional football. In the States at that time, it was really difficult. You had a lot of guys that were playing indoors and outdoors, split seasons. You had something called the A League, but guys weren't making very much money doing it. So I came back in 94, I came back in 93, and again, wasn't sure what I was going to do. I heard MLS was going to begin, so I ended up playing kind of just, for some of the lower leagues, in something called the A League and the USL. And lo and behold, it was a very important time to do that, because there were only about 6 or 7 teams in the States, part of the A League, and we played against each team maybe 4 or 5 times, right? There weren't very many teams. And there was a coach of the Atlanta team named Lothar Osiander. And I had never played for Lothar. I didn't really know him, but I played against his team 4 or 5 times. And because of that, when MLS did begin in 96, lo and behold, he had seen me play, and I ended up playing for being sent out to play for the Galaxy. So certainly it wasn't like MLS is today, but because of those experiences, right, it led me to LA. So it was all good.
Nice. Well, I have a question. You will always be remembered as that first Los Angeles captain for the Galaxy. When you came in, did you have that in mind for your goal to be the captain of the LA Galaxy? And was there how did that happen? How did that come about? How did that come about, you being the captain of the LA Galaxy?
Wait.
Yeah.
I heard a legend. Maybe you could a myth. Maybe you could tell if it's true. I heard there was a secret fight club.
If there was a secret fight club, then El Tanque would have been the captain of the Galaxy. No doubt. I don't think anyone was brave enough to take him on.
I heard it was Cien and Tanque at the end. Is that true?
So it certainly wasn't a goal of mine to be, to be the captain. I was just joining the team like everybody else, right? It was just beginning. I had been captains through my youth, playing on different teams, and the decision was Lothar Osianders. Lothar, had his group of players, and for whatever reason, maybe because I can be loud and boisterous at times, but he's the one who appointed me captain. It wasn't a player vote or anything like that. Maybe my parents had paid some money over to Lothar. I'm not sure. We would have to look into that, but that's the person that named me the captain of the team.
Okay. So obviously Lothar has a lot to do with you coming to the Galaxy, but was there any preference for teams? I know you're not originally from LA. We spoke a little earlier. You're from New York, right? Was LA always, the set place, or did you have any other preference that you would maybe want to play closer to home?
That's a great question, and it's funny. I had gotten a call because I had played in Japan and I had played in the A-League, but I wasn't a U.S. national team player, right? So people didn't know who I was, or the league, the higher ups in the Ogulati and those guys really only cared about the national team guys, so to speak. So I get this call out of the blue saying, from the league, just saying, hey, there's an opportunity. Your name has come up as maybe being an allocated player. So you need to, have a list of 10 of the places that you would play for in order of, number 1, I want to go play there, all the way to 10. And I was from the Northeast, so I think I filled it out with, cities from the Northeast, and LA wasn't very high on my list. I was silly back then and didn't realize it. I was East Coast. And sure enough, I ended up coming out to LA. And in about 24 hours, I remember, I think I had called my folks and saying, God, was I an idiot? Everything is so much better on the West Coast. So again, thank goodness for Lothar, but it turned out to be pretty wonderful. And my God, the West Coast is amazing.
How was your relationship with your teammates in 1996? From getting to know them to, having one of the most successful seasons in Galaxy history, and how did they react to you being named captain?
Well, how did they react? That's a question you might need to ask them. At least to my face, they seemed happy. I think they respected me as somebody who, was someone who has integrity, that is going to work hard, that is about the group. Center backs tend to be boisterous. I was a center back. So maybe I think that it kind of made sense for them that I would be, that I would be captain. But again, that's a question for them. Hopefully they thought I did a good job as that. Jokingly, my parents would say, so what do you do as a captain? Like, what is your role? What is your responsibility? And I said, well, what I do is I call everybody onto the field and we huddle up and I say, hey, listen, Jorge Campos has something to say to you guys.
Oh man, that's super.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to add to that because it's funny that you say that. Being that there were so many Latin American players there, was there any like language barrier? You being the captain and have motivate players, or did you pick up any Spanish? Maybe.
Yeah, I had Spanish in high school, and
Oh, nice.
but I wasn't the brightest, so I could sneak by a little bit, as we all could, right? We all could, between bad Spanish and bad English. We all were able to communicate, and yeah, that really was never an issue. It wasn't an issue with our group, and there was a lot of laughing. There was a lot of laughing that I think united us.
Nice.
How was it when you first met the guys? Because we spoke to Tanke, and he talked about meeting the players, and then meeting Andrew Shue, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, this guy is he's a movie
Oh, that's
star."
right.
And he said he went to tell his wife, like, "Oh my God, I'm playing on the team of a star," and he said he was just talking about what was it like to meet with you guys, and then the practices outside the Rose Bowl, and that the field with the broken glass and everything. What was it like for you meeting your teammates for the first time, and how was it that you guys started building that camaraderie?
Well, first off, meeting my teammates for the first time, right? It's always a little nerve-wracking, right? Guys are coming in from different countries, different areas, and you hear rumor of these guys, but you don't know them. So the one thing that kind of connects for any team is the hard work, right? Is the commitment to each other to work hard, right? And to hold that bar high, and so I guess that's kind of how it starts. It's kind of a shared struggle. We are in this together. We need each other, and we are going to work our asses off, right? To get to whatever level we're going to get to, right? And I think that's where it starts, that there's a core group of guys that have belief in the struggle, right? Belief in hard work, right? Belief in dealing with pain. And once you share that with your teammates, right? They become your brothers, right? You've gone through this with them. And I think that's how teams come together. Then you throw a little success in that, and now all of a sudden there's confidence behind that, and you can become this kind of unstoppable machine that you can only hurt yourselves, right? And at least for me, I think that's how it happens. That there's a integrity, there's an honesty of hard work.
Well, you spoke about you being in the trenches per se with your teammates. You were always known as one of the fiercest, and you were always one of the most respected defenders in the league. But what actually drove you to be that fierce, or that kind of rock in that defensive line? What motivated you?
So it was funny one day. It just reminds me of a story. So I think I was sitting with Robin. Most of my stories, Robin Fraser is involved in. I think we were talking, and I was telling a story where I was talking to maybe one of the young players, maybe Guillermo Jara, Jorge Salcedo, I'm not sure, one of them. And we were talking about that kind of fierce, right? The fierceness to play, the anger to play. And I was telling the story about, that before that whistle blows, I call up like all the demons, all the evil, right? All the poison inside me, and it comes out, right? And it's almost controllable. Like I can control that. I can bring that out when we're about to compete. Because I don't know any other way to compete, but other than to do that. And I was telling it like, doesn't everyone do that, right? Isn't that what everyone does? And Robin looked at me like I had, like 15 eyes. He was like, what? Who does that, right? I can't even relate to you. And I just thought, oh, that's what everyone does, right? Everyone must be able to bring those demons out and bring that poison out. So anyway, I don't have a great answer for you. I feel like, I probably carried a big chip on my shoulder when I played, but I don't think I don't know where that came from, other than, what I think why I was successful as an athlete was that I really I loved competing, right? I was fierce as far as, the will to compete. And I really don't know where that comes from, but I knew, somewhere deep inside me that it could come out. And that's what that's what I tried to do, was bring that out every game.
Okay. Well, obviously you're a fierce competitor, but that's on the field. We've talked for a little bit. We know you're pretty jolly guy, it seems like. So how about off the field? We've heard stories about players meeting up with even fans at local bars in Pasadena after the games. Is there any memories that you have that stick out off the field with your teammates?
I believe we have a pact amongst the players that we don't talk about those days.
You don't talk about Fight Club, guys.
And I think that pact lasts 30 years. So we still, before those stories come out, I still think we have a couple more years before I can start sharing those stories.
Oh my goodness, I can attest to that.
I will say that I met, I have a story that, with Robin Fraser, Robin and I lived together during those days, and we lived right in Old Town Pasadena as the players, because of the Rose Bowl, most of the guys were in and around the Pasadena area. And I was able to, we went to a restaurant one day and I saw the most beautiful woman, and I had this feeling, and I said to Robin, Robin, I think I just met my wife. I think that's going to be my wife. And Robin looked at me and said, Dan, shut up, right? Well, what are you talking about? Whatever. So sure enough, like a couple of days later, Robin's like, I'm hungry, where should we go eat? So I'm like, let's go back to that restaurant where, I saw that woman. And he goes, no, I'm like, listen, I'll pay for dinner. Let's go back. And he said, okay. And sure enough, that is the woman that ended up being my wife. So,
wow.
Yeah, good memories, really, really good memories of going out in Pasadena, and it will always be kind of a warm place in my heart.
Nice. And then you always had the advantage of going up to any lady and be like, hey, I know Andrew's shoe.
And they would say, well, then introduce me, you fool. So Andrew is a funny story because maybe a month ago, MLS decided to do a write-up on him, and so we all got back in touch together. And so I talked with Andrew, and then in fact 3 or 4 days ago we were just on this group text. Me, Andrew, Robin, Mark Semioli, and John Garvey. We were all on a group text because we were all part of this article that about Andrew Shue. And listen, he's such a good guy. He deserved to be there. He was a good soccer player at Dartmouth. He was a good friend, and he still is a good friend. We just don't see each other much anymore.
Nice. You're obviously one of the original players, and it's funny that a lot of players that played before were able to see the MLS transition into what it is now, and obviously you're one of those, and you've been into it in many different aspects, not just as a player. But was there a moment that you either realized as a player or as a coach that you realized that MLS was here to stay? You were like, wow, that's it. This is the moment that MLS is here to stay.
That's a great question. The moment that, and other players have spoken about this, but I think the moment when we pulled into the Rose Bowl, against New York to open up our MLS, right, the season in '96, I think, and seeing so many people at the game, I feel like, I just remember we all looked at each other like, oh my God, this thing's really gonna happen, right? Because again, Robin, myself, there were players, Mark Samuel, that were playing in the A League, and this league dispersed and this league ended, and and there was always this fear that MLS, maybe it wasn't going to make it, right? Maybe it wasn't going to make it. We didn't know. So when we pulled in for that game, and there were so many people at the Rose Bowl, I kind of felt like it was going to be here, right? I think it was going to be here, and it was shocking in the most wonderful way that there was that kind of support in LA for this new team. So certainly, the history isn't, it didn't go straight up from there. Obviously, the league had struggled, right? Owners had to now own a few teams to keep it going for a little while, right? We lost the Florida teams, but within the struggle, I think they kept fighting and they made the league better. And now when I look at the league, I'm just amazed by it. I really am. I'm amazed by it from those early years to now, with these beautiful soccer-only stadiums and the level of support and just the professionalism that is involved in the game now. I mean, it's kind of glorious to see, and I'm so grateful that I continue to be a part of it.
Now let's move it forward back to 1996. That was an interesting season, because I remember that first half of the season, it was incredible. The team was in such a tear. I remember, I think it was midway through May, I was wearing this Galaxy jersey at a Dodgers game, and some random Dodger fan came up to me and he's like, "Wow, what's the team's record?" I'm like, "I think they're like 11-0. And he's like, "That's fantastic. I didn't think they could win every game of the season." And I was like, "I don't think they could run the table, but this is a great start." And it was interesting that Dodger fans were reacting to me wearing this. The shirt, they obviously recognized the team at that point. And then that second half of the season, things got really strange, but you guys managed to pull it together at the end, make a playoff run. We were wondering, what emotions were swirling through your mind leading up to that 96 conference final versus Kansas City? And second part of the question is, what was your reaction when you found out that you wouldn't be able to play an MLS Cup? And how did you cope with that and the subsequent results?
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that subject. I thought that was. I'm teasing.
I would like to remind you, Dan, our show has no rating. Like, as far as you could use whatever colorful language you like, right?
Yes.
Oh, remember when I said I don't have a chip on my shoulder? Well,
don't worry.
I did after 96. So, again, I'll tell the story. When I was an allocated player, I was with Lothar and Octavio when they were picking the team. I was already out in LA, and obviously Robin Preza was the first pick, which was amazing. And Robin called me. Robin and I had become friends because we played in the A League against each other. And he said, "Dan, what? I saw the guys we picked. I don't know. Like, are we going to be any good, right? I don't know." And I said, "Frage, come on, man. They took me as an allocated player, and they took you number one. Of course we're going to be good. They took the two best." So from that story, and of course Robin laughed, but from that story, we knew once we started training, we knew we had something good, right? We knew, I think the genius of Lothar and certainly Octavio as well is, they picked a group of guys that could get along. They took a group of guys that had strong, almost moral cores, right? There was integrity within our group, and it's tough. You're just starting out picking players, and really, really special group of people. So once we started playing, we knew we had something good, and obviously we started off, quite strong. I think through the summer, we hit the doldrums, which is pretty typical in MLS when summertime comes. and then obviously started picking up. And Kansas City was a good team. The Wiz back then, if I remember correctly. And they were a good team, but we really didn't think there was a team that was better in the West than we were. You know, on the East, you know, Tampa was a good team and DC was a good team. And certainly I think we felt as a group that those three teams were the best teams in the league. So yeah, I think there was a lot of confidence going into Kansas City that we could beat them, or that we would beat them. And yeah, and lo and behold, you know, we end up winning. It was tight. And to this day, I'll never forgive Jorge Salcedo, because Jorge Salcedo, towards the end of a game, tried to drop a pass to me that wasn't hard enough, and it got taken. I think it was Paul Wright that ended up taking it, and that guy's blazing fast, and I'm not blazing fast. And I didn't know where Robin was, so I ended up, you know, going into tackle and fouling him, picked up a yellow. You know, that turned out to be the second yellow in 2 games or something. And now I had to miss the MLS Cup, which, you know, to this day is, you know, the punishment didn't right. The crime wasn't all that bad, right? Picking up 2 yellows in a playoff series to miss a championship game. So, you know, to this day, I'm upset that I didn't get to play in that game, but through a lot of therapy, I finally, I'm still working my way through it, that, you know, that I wasn't able to play in that game. But, you know, such is life. And, you know, the guys, it was a crazy game and it was a crazy day, and, you know, we had a 2-0 lead, and, you know, we just didn't keep it. But, you know, credit to DC. And listen, it's not like we were terrible. We played very well on the day, and in those conditions, it was pretty incredible. Yeah. You know, it just didn't work out for us.
Yeah. Well, you got what the kids like to say, MLS'd.
Hashtag MLS.
Yeah, but usually, right, you can get MLS by the referee or whatever. I got MLS by the league.
Yeah, you know what?
You're the ultimate.
Yeah, you're the very first. You'll go down in history.
Trailblazer. You're a trailblazer.
So you know, now, right? You know, now the rule has changed, right? So now they don't keep, you know, the yellow cards going into the championship game. They don't want, you know, players to miss that. So I've asked the league to call that the Calichman Rule, so I can, you know, I can be just, you know, in history in MLS. But to this day, they've just ignored me.
It was a lot of angry letters from Galaxy fans
Definitely
that made that happen.
I'll tell you one thing, Dan. You know, you're just starting on Twitter. Galaxy fans have a big voice in the social media community, so you put that out there, it'll be the Calichman Rule in a week.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, just crazy times. And then, you know, DC ends up winning it, and then they have an amazing year the next year, and then, you know, Bruce Arena is this, you know, becomes this, you know, very, very famous coach. So it's funny how life works, and circumstances are, you know, a part of that, and that's, you know, such is life, right? But yeah, one day I'll move on from it.
So you mentioned playing next to Robin. You also mentioned playing against Tanque in practice. What other players, if any, you say brought out the best in you?
My goodness, right? There's probably far too many, right? There's probably far too many to name.
Salcedo? I was kidding.
Who did you say?
Salcedo.
Yeah, I mean, Jorge's wonderful, and yeah, was a good player. I'm upset that he didn't hit the ball hard enough, but, you know, over time, we're still good friends on that. You know, we had a competitive bunch, you know, to talk about the old days and not mention Kobe Jones, right? Kobe is an extremely competitive player. And, you know, when we would play small-sided games, right, he would detest losing, right? And So that kind of brought out the best of you, always trying to compete against Kobe, right? And then, the pleasure of seeing Fuegos and what a wonderful player he was, and basically win the ball, give it to him, and watch magic, right? And you got to watch him. You got to watch him not only in games, but you got to watch him in training. Just his level and the way he can create space and see the pass and then hit the pass. And there were lots of great players, right? And I wouldn't be doing justice by just naming them, but everyone has that impact, and it's the environment that's created, and the environment is created by all those guys competing and wanting to be better and pushing you to be better. So, all of them, all those former players were wonderful, right, in their own right.
Oh, Dan, I like I said, I was with the club back in 97, 98, 99. I had that press pass, and so I was privy to a lot of stuff that would happen in the locker room. And I remember that night when you had that run-in with Marcelo Balboa, and I remember
I don't know if it was really a run-in.
But I remember being there. I was one of the first people in the locker room, and I remember it was pretty dour. But looking back, your time with the Galaxy came to an abrupt end. We didn't know it at the time, and it's tied to that painful memory. For a lot of fans, it's a very painful memory. And the question is, what was the fallout of that encounter with Marcelo Balboa, and how did it impact the rest of your career? And the second part of that question is, did you and Balboa ever get together and discuss this incident later on?
So, yeah, well, again, so that chip on the right shoulder was for not playing in the 96 Cup. The chip on the left shoulder is breaking my leg and then, right, never being the same after that. And I wasn't. Right. I just never was the same player after that injury, even though, I worked hard and a lot of great people helped me, get back to playing. And, then I end up going to New England and playing 1 or 2 seasons, but I just never was the same for whatever reason. That following season, I played for New England. We played Colorado. I saw Marcelo. In fact, it was really funny. There was a ball left out there, almost 50-50 again. And we both started looking for it, and then we both backed off. Footage is kind of crazy. But listen, he didn't intend to break my leg. It was a bad tackle. He shouldn't have made that tackle. But he didn't intend to break my leg. And this is the stuff that happens, right? You put on a uniform and you go to battle. And it just so happened that that's what, unfortunately for me, that's what happened. But, such is life, right? And we move on. And so I've seen Marcelo a bunch of times, right? He does commentating for the Rapids, right? I have seen him. All good. No
all
issues.
Good.
All good.
Yeah. If you're listening, Marcelo.
I know he's listening for sure.
All good now. At the time, when I was on that stretcher, all was not good.
Oh yeah.
All was not.
I learned how to lip read real fast. Seeing that video.
I know.
That was a little late.
Imagine. Yeah, of course. Well, it seems like you were a very passionate player, especially after that play, obviously. But it seems like you were very passionate as a player, and I can assume that you're the same as a coach. But a lot of players seem to transition into coaching, and I always ask the question, like, what really inspired you to be a coach? How was that transition from you being a player to a coach, and what was your first coaching experience like?
So the quick answer to that is, because we're players, and if you have a long career, you don't know anything but that. right? You know, you basically are getting your graduate degree in football, right? While everyone else is going and getting their graduate degree in, you know, whatever it is, or schooling, or, you know, work experience and other things. So, you know, we kind of live and we age and we gain experience through our playing. So then when that's done, you know, we kind of fall back on the one thing that we know, right? And we think we know football, certainly. As far as, you know, why I personally went into coaching is that, you know, I kind of knew I was always going to be a coach. Like I always, you know, as a player, I love being on the sideline. I love training, right? I love games because games are where you showcase, you know, your hard work at training. But, you know, I love being on a soccer field, and, you know, there are very few jobs other than being a player that keeps you on a soccer field, right?
Of course.
Coaching is one of them. And being a center back and being a captain or a leader, you end up doing a lot of coaching, right? You end up coaching and working with a lot of the younger players, organizing them, structure, you know, why we do it this way. And so, you know, it was really a pretty smooth transition for me, knowing that that's what I was going to do. And, you know, I ended up retiring. I was playing for the Charleston Battery at the time, and kind of where MLS players back in the old days went to die. It was like the elephant graveyard. But it was wonderful. It was a wonderful place. And I remember just in the off season, you know, telling my wife at the time, saying, hey, I just don't see it. And she was like, great. And within 4 days, we were back in Los Angeles, because she was from Los Angeles. And, you know, then I applied for some coaching jobs, and was fortunate enough to get one. And so I ended up kind of right away that fall, I ended up becoming the coach of a small Division III school out in Claremont, California, called Claremont McKenna College, which the athletic department is Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps colleges. And yeah, and I started coaching.
Wow, nice. Well,
That's like literally in my backyard because I live in Pomona.
Oh, excellent. And
And
Pomona Pizzas are a big rival, right?
boo, Pomona. See? Yet another reason why you can't do the intros, Edgar.
You Pomonians, boo.
So, Dan, very fun going down memory lane. Enjoyed all your stories, but time to look ahead. Without giving away too much, you know, we've had some pretty rough seasons, as I'm sure you know. What can you tell us or assure us we can see coming from the Galaxy, from you and the rest of the coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult when, you know, pose this question, because all coaches are going to say pretty similar things, right? Looking back at last year, right, there were a lot of goals given up, right? And there were, you know, the team got stretched in different ways. And so, you know, looking from last year to this year, where we could maybe improve upon, or where we will improve upon, right? You know, Greg has taken a good look at the games. I've watched old games back, last year's games, and yeah, there's room for improvement, obviously, and we see that and we know that. But the principles stay the same, right? Our values stay the same, that, you know, the expectations will be high. This club is used to winning trophies. This club is used to being in championships. So we know, you know, we know what that expectation is. And we also, I think, know, you know, and hopefully the players realize what a privilege it is to put that jersey on every day, to go out and train being a Galaxy player, right? That means something. That means something for a huge community, not just in Los Angeles, right? But just kind of all over the country and globally. And I think we start there. I think we start players understanding that, you know, what the expectation is, understanding the privilege, and then we can get into the tactics and how we can fix things and how we can give a better performance, certainly, to the fans. But what I will say about Greg, who's a wonderful, wonderful coach in 100 different ways, But the guys will be clear. I can promise you that the guys will have a clarity and they will be purposeful, meaning they will know what's expected, what to do in certain situations on the field, where we are on the field, what we're trying to do to manipulate the other team, to try to get space. So I know that will happen.
Awesome. And
quick question. Do you feel that sometimes some of the players, you mentioned, by the way, what it feels like to put on this uniform, whether it's in 96 or in 2020, 2021, and do you feel that some players have lost sense of what it's like to put on a uniform and fight for the badge and their supporters? And how do you feel you could remedy that if that's the case?
Well, I haven't worked with them. And so I'm not going to say that I feel like they don't have that feeling because, I don't know, right? You can lose games in many ways. What I know that Greg and myself and the staff are going to bring is we're going to make sure that they have that feeling, that they understand the pride that goes into that badge, the pride that goes into putting on that jersey. It will be ingrained in them like it was ingrained in us. And so I certainly am not saying that they don't have that, but what I do know is that will be instilled in them through our coaching.
Does that mean practices on broken glass and having to pick up the bottles before?
I hope so.
and you know what?
Those are true stories. I mean, people can't believe, but that actually happened. We would form a line and we would walk down what was laid out as a field, and we would just pick up glass and we'd move to the end, and then we would throw the glass out there. I mean, that is absolutely a true story.
Sounds like some Miyagi-Do Galaxy type thing.
Glass on, glass off.
Part of the struggle, fellas. Part of the struggle.
We keep talking about what it feels like to wear the jersey and stuff. It's reassuring to have people like you and Vanny coming back, because we've heard this before. And no disrespect to people like GBS, Scalotto, but they never put it on. They see it and they hear about it and they know the legacy, but you, Vanny, actually wore it. So like you said, maybe it's not that they don't respect it or they don't feel it, but it's gonna be different coming from you and Vanny, and that's something that all of us are excited about, and glad that you guys are here to bring that pride and heart back to the team.
Yeah, and we are too, right? We're excited about it. And listen, Scalotto, coaches sometimes go to places and don't have success. Sometimes they go to places and they have great success, right? And sometimes it's the connection, sometimes maybe injuries, sometimes it just happens. But what I do know from us, right, as a staff who was in Toronto, who are now here, is that Greg does a wonderful job of setting those expectations and raising the bar and continually raising the bar, so we are meeting these expectations. And certainly that's one thing, this great pride that we have for this club, this love for the club that we have for our fans, for this city. We're awfully excited to be a part of it again.
Great.
I'm excited as a fan to see it, man. It's been a while since I felt this type of excitement, maybe 4 or 5 years. It's been a while, so.
Well, we appreciate that, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it starts with us getting out on the field.
Let's get those
hopefully that's soon.
Let's get those papers signed first, right? And then
that's right. Let's get playing again.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you for answering all our questions. I don't know if you guys have any more questions for Dan before we move on to the listener question.
I was just curious to know. You mentioned that you're still new in the office with the team, and I'm just curious to know how different is it from, besides the stuff we used to pick up the glass, but how different is it the way the team is run from 96, 97, 98, 99 to what it is now, and what do you notice?
Well, the first thing I notice is that they actually have offices.
No more bungalows, right?
I think they were trailers out by the
Yeah.
Rose Bowl, which were the offices. So these actually are concrete offices with actually electronics. So I kind of noticed that right off the bat. Listen, it's night and day. And hopefully 30 years from now, it's going to be, even better and more different than it is today. But, it's been a nice progression forward. And the club has been awfully successful. And that's the expectation, right? So whether the staff, whether front office, whether the players, right? There's an expectation throughout the whole organization, right? To continually to get better and to strive to be the best. So, that will run throughout the whole organization, I'm sure.
And just one more question also. Is it a coincidence that the new leaked jersey that we saw on the internet yesterday, it's pretty much a throwback to '97, and then all of a sudden, here comes Dan and Greg and Gato, and oh my goodness, we're having a nostalgia moment here.
Are you saying you designed it?
This is going to come as a shock to you all, but right, I'm not involved in those. I'm only the assistant. I'm not involved in those marketing meetings and uniforms and all of that. So I have no idea. It seems to be a hell of a coincidence, though. And when I actually see that jersey, if it pays homage to '97 or '98, then how terrific, right? Then how terrific.
Yeah. And talk about the offices. Dan, once you get in there and discover this thing called Wi-Fi, is gonna blow your mind. Trust me.
Goodness.
Hey, I'm still working on like a Twitter picture or a photo.
Oh, you know what?
Slow down.
That's a perfect time to transition to the questions. Somebody on the live show, we had a live show yesterday, and I'll start with that question. And I feel really bad because I don't remember who asked that question, but his question for you was actually, when are you going to add a picture to your Twitter account?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you're in Johnny Lawrence territory here right now.
As soon as I figure out how to do it, I will add a picture to my Twitter page. I just have to think about the right picture. To be honest, I haven't really given it a lot of thought. Twitter is something very new to me, as I shared. And really, I got involved because of the Galaxy history, to be honest with you. So I'm still very new to it. But yes, that picture is coming, I promise.
Again, powerful voice on Twitter. So
Yep.
do yourself a favor. Find an old school Galaxy picture. Make that your... It'll take you a long way.
I don't know if I can find one handsome enough. I got to find one that makes me look really good. So we'll see. All right,
cool. So yeah, like I mentioned, again, thank you for answering all our questions. Some viewers submitted a couple questions, and actually the first one comes from Galaxy History. He wants to know, are you taking the players to train on the famous Lot K?
That will be a negative. There's no reason to go there when we actually have these really beautiful facilities down at Dignity Health. But I will say that the hard work and the struggle and the expectations, all of that will be happening, just like what we were doing at the Rose Bowl parking lot. All of that will be happening, on those fields. So we're actually not going to be at the parking lot, but you can bet that we are going to be working hard to connect, to understand what we're trying to do, to struggle, to suffer a little bit as a unit, right? That'll bring us together.
Okay, awesome. Next question comes from Jeff in 109 on Twitter. He says he wants to know if Captain Dan is still mad at Marcelo Balboa.
Of course I am. Of course I am. Yeah, I'm furious to this day. So no, I mean, I'm not mad anymore. I told you, lots of therapy, and I've moved on from it. And Marcelo and I have seen each other. We're friendly. We were never close friends to begin with. So we're not close friends now, but we certainly say hello when we see each other. So yes, I have finally at 52 moved on from it.
Nice.
Okay. Let's just hope he doesn't like step on a new pair of shoes. If you're just that therapy's gonna go out the window real quick.
Correct.
Anthony Ryan Official on Instagram wants to know, how do you plan to change our poor defense for the upcoming season?
Well, let's see. So defending right is all 11 guys, the guys that come in as well. So typically I work a lot with the back lines. So we'll start with there and we'll start with try to connect the group, right? We'll start connecting the group, whether that is, if we press, we're all together, we're all high, we understand what we're doing. If we're dropped off, right, the forwards, midfielders, everyone is working together, right, to kind of defend the goal at that point. So listen, right, there's lots that happen in giving up goals, and yeah, we'll work through that. And if the players are playing confidently and have a good knowledge of what we're trying to do as a group, then we'll give up less goals. There's no doubt.
And if anything, you can suit up, right?
Yeah, there's not a chance of that.
That's what we're really waiting for. That's what we're really waiting
Yeah, we were
for,
talking
to be
about
honest.
that.
Maybe we could put Hartman in goal. Maybe we could do that. He's young. He and Greg are still young.
We were actually talking about that. Like, maybe you see something that's going on in the game and you're like, that's it. Let's show these guys how it's
That's
done. You, Greg, and Gato jump into the field and start knocking people around.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you guys want to see that. Maybe in an alumni game. That's about the only time you want to see that.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
But stop giving away our skits, Edgar. I was going to propose that to the Galaxy.
I want to see an alumni game go up against Vinny Jones. Here we go.
Ooh. Yeah, he's mean. I don't know if I want that.
Next question comes from Logan Jones on Instagram. He wants to know what made you decide to come back to LA.
What made me decide that I was fortunate enough to work with Greg, and obviously Greg had the offer, and Greg was kind enough to invite me to come with him. So that's kind of how it works, right? The assistant coaches are part of the staff, and with the head coach. Obviously the Galaxy had offered Greg the head coaching job, and he turned around and asked if I would want to be a part of that project, and I said yes immediately. And LA, obviously it brings me back to LA. My children live in LA, and obviously coaching for the Galaxy is something very, very special to both Greg and to myself. And Kevin, I assume, and as well, right? There's something quite special about that.
I feel that you have to give these answers, Dan, but I have a feeling the call went, hey, got this job in LA, and you looked out your half covered with snow window. You're like, I'll be on the next flight.
It wasn't that different from what you just said.
Wearing a toque, holding a cup of Timmy's, and you're like shivering.
Oh, look at you throwing out a cup of Timmy's. Nice.
I love Timmy's. It's good stuff.
Next one comes from Jay Wilby on Instagram. If you wouldn't be an assistant coach, what else would you be highly passionate to be?
A head coach.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because we've seen Greg, Chris, Robin all become head coaches, and here you are, assistant. Yeah,
Next
Oh
up.
my goodness. I must have been a good leader back in my day that all these guys now have become head coaches.
You mentored all these guys. Well, I don't know about Robin, but
yeah, he's older than me. Yeah, well, we'll see, right? We'll see. But right now, at this point in my life, I've got the best job in the world, right? I get to be, as I mentioned earlier, right? I get to do what I love, which is coaching. Whether you're a head coach or assistant coach, you're coaching, right? And you're connecting with players, and you're on a soccer field. And I get to do that in Los Angeles, right? At the club that I love, right? Surrounded by my children. So I'm pretty thankful. No better job than that.
And lastly, from our good friend Alex, he asks, what type of culture are you and Vanny trying to create?
I think that's more of a question for Greg as the head coach, but I think it's going to be Um, I mean, it's a broad question, right? So, but I would use words like there'd be integrity, purposeful, hardworking, high pain tolerance.
High pain tolerance.
Words like that. Again, I feel like, our stuff is going to come out in our training. And, if we're able to teach, if we're good teachers and our players are good students and have an idea of what we're doing and the ability to see things and make their decisions on the field, because that's what's wonderful about the game, is that it's a fluid game. Then we'll be successful.
Nice. And that's it for the questions. Thank you, Dan, for answering. I'm sure all the listeners are gonna love that. And I think that pretty much does it as far as our questions too. You guys got anything else for Captain Dan?
Just curious if you still have one of these beautiful '96 jerseys, like in your closet somewhere.
It's the garage, and I think it's in a box in a garage, and I promise you I will look. I promise I will look for them. I would only have 96, 97, 98, right? So I will look for them, I promise. And I will see if I can come across a few of them.
I got you. Look, slap on one of those jerseys, stand in front of the mirror, take a picture, Twitter picture, done.
You're blowing my mind. How did you think of that? You're blowing my mind.
He's got to do that jet thing. Your model picture. I don't know if you saw this, Cap Dan, but Sebastian Lletget was posting something on Instagram where he's like, "How do you do your model picture?" And how did it go, Willis?
I don't remember.
It was something like, what was it, Eddie?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Dan has no idea what we're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I will definitely link you to that. And I mean, just Lletget is just all about social media. So you need any help, you're right there.
Yeah. Well, I am not all about social media. And let's take care of on the field stuff first before we even get to social media.
All right. One last time, Dan, thank you again for joining us. We're all excited about the upcoming season, and
Definitely.
Wish you much success, and hopefully you can bring us a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th star. How many, as many as you guys want. We'll welcome them all.
Well, let's start with number 6, right? Let's start there, and then let's see what happens. But certainly that is the goal.
Sounds good.
I think more than anything, though, one thing that is on everybody's mind is like the one thing that we want more than anything is to be able to be there in the stadium, so we could get there and see you in person and the team that you guys put together and cheer you on and celebrate having you back in Los Angeles along with Greg. And hopefully we'll make that happen this year.
I hope so too, right? And that's a great way to say it. Let's all be safe, let's be healthy, and let's hope we're back in the stadium soon, as a group.
Great. I usually ask any message for fans during this pandemic, but you know what? That sounds good to me.
That works. Let's do it.
That works.
Got it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.